Welcome to Empowerment Radio. My name is Dr. Friedemann, and I'm so glad that you decided to join me. Empowerment Radio is about giving you the insights, tools, and solutions to address some of the most challenging aspects of our daily lives. So sit back, relax, and empower yourself. Welcome to Empowerment Radio. I'm your host, Dr. Friedemann. And, sometimes I think, wouldn't it be funny if people could actually see what you're doing right before the show? If there's like a little camera, like in the Truman Show, well, you would have seen me chasing after our mule, who once again escaped because there were apples somewhere on another field, and they were so much more tasty than the hay that I had out for him. And I had to look for the fly mask, which somehow these mules and horses are just able to rip off because they're a little bored. And then you have to look for them all over the field until you finally find them. And then finally I had to feed a little stray kitty that seems to have adopted us, probably because we have good food. So all of those things happened just like 20 minutes before Empowerment Radio. And I have to say, it does kind of always center myself to be around animals and being outside. So that is actually today's topic of the show, the power of calm. Because we are living in crazy times, and I often talk about this. And I often also share how, these times are unprecedented. And I have to tell you, sometimes I feel a little tired of everything that's going on. You're kind of trying to catch up. Here is something, really crazy happening. And here's something that feels totally out of control. And here's a lot of tension about the future. And at some time, you just have to reel yourself back in and say, like, no more. I have to disconnect and I have to center myself. But how do you do this? Well, this is exactly what I want to share with you today, that there are two really effective and powerful ways to find that calmness and that peace inside. Because when we are more calm and we are more centered, we can look at those situations that seem to be overwhelming and out of control from a complete different perspective. We are either just a little bit more distant and don't feel like in that vortex of craziness, or we have actually the mindset of saying, yeah, I can handle it no matter what comes my way. I can understand that this is a little iffy and challenging, but I can actually find a way to, make my life still the best possible. And so those two methods, those two technologies are: one, meditation. Now, don't start yawning because you may have tried meditating or you do already meditate, because there are things about meditation that I feel are just often misconceptions. And those misconceptions I want to address. How can you make meditate easy, even for people like me who had really a hard time meditating when they started 30 years ago? What are the things that we can tweak and change so that it really becomes a normal part of life? And the other method I want to talk about is self-hypnosis. Can you actually hypnotize yourself? What's the difference to meditation, and how may it be even better than meditation, or maybe at least a nice addition to it? Now, to meditation. Now, a lot of people have tried meditating, and a client of mine the other day just told me, I wanted to calm my mind, so I took a course online about meditating, and it was really hard, and I felt like I will never master it, and I felt overwhelmed by it. And on some level, she said she felt more stressed out when she tried to meditate than even before. And that's exactly what I felt when I started meditating. I thought, well, close your eyes, still your mind, everything's going to be fine. Well, that was not so easy, because one of two things happened. One was that I had my mind really galloping through my brain even faster and louder than before. So I couldn't understand how, rather than tuning it down, it seemed to be turned on. And the other was that I fell asleep. That was the alternative. And both of them didn't really feel that successful. So after a few tries, I just quit. Said, okay, can't do it. And then a few years later, I gave it another go, because then I actually had a conversation with a meditation teacher who enlightened me a little bit about what meditation is actually about. And I do find meditating is not that hard, but it is a practice we want to actually practice and get good at. Now, meditation has been proven scientifically to be, for many, many problems and challenges, extremely beneficial, whether it's anxiety or stress or high blood pressure or even wound healing and autoimmune diseases, you name it. There's something about that happens inside of you that is really bringing up, the natural abilities for us to heal and to find balance again. And I think it has to do with the fact that we have about 500 billion neurons that are in our brain, and each of them makes about 5,000 connections with the other neurons. So there is trillions of connections in our brain, and that makes us really pretty smart. The problem is that sometimes it seems that these neurons are firing at will, right? I mean, they're just doing whatever they want, and you feel not in control of your thinking and of your feeling and where your mind is taking you. And so that has to do with that we are really not working with our mind in a very focused way. And the more our society became modern, the more unfocused we became. Our attention span is pretty much now limited to the length of a YouTube video. 2-hour movies are way too long for most people. Reading a book, what are you talking about? I may have a book on tape, but I'd rather watch something. So there is something we haven't really trained our neurons anymore to be in sync with each other, to focus on something, to listen to our guidance. And that is exactly what meditation is doing. It helps you to bring it all back to one focus. It's a little bit like, the iron filings that are all over the place. And then you put the magnets on the outside and boop, they are aligning themselves. And that's what happens with meditation. You are aligning yourself. Now, meditation is a technique. And a lot of people wonder if they do have to be spiritual or religious in order to get the most out of it. And the answer is no, not at all. All you need to do is just to believe in yourself, believe in the power of your mind to be able to wrap itself around that peace and that calmness that you're offering in that meditation space. So if you have a spiritual context, yes, of course, I believe if we want to connect to a higher power, meditating is a really powerful and wonderful way to do that, but you don't have to necessarily have that even as a focus. Now, another question that often comes out is that people feel like, shouldn't I have my mind calmer? Shouldn't I, when I close my eyes and start to breathe, feel right away better, more enlightened? And the answer is no, because meditating is a little bit like house cleaning. It's like your mind basically gets addressed. And when you're house cleaning, well, at the beginning, if you haven't done this for a while, the dust is flying. Everything is just swirling around. And that's exactly what happens with meditation too. At the beginning, your mind dust is simply going wild. And you're going to have to sweep it out. You have to let those thoughts go. You have to let yourself simply also observe without getting attached to all of those thoughts that are coming up, and then let them either settle in, like, the snowflakes and the snow globe, or just let the dust fly out of the window. And after the 5th, 6th, or 10th time, you actually feel, oh, it was faster. There wasn't as much dust. There wasn't as much swirling around. And I do feel calmer already. Now, how long do you meditate and how often? Well, I find that every day is better than once a week for 2 hours, every day for 10 minutes. Do 5 minutes. If that works in your schedule, it doesn't matter. But, just use it as something like brushing your teeth, something that tells you, I want to do this because I want to get my mind already aligned for the day, or after you have a busy day and everything has been pulling you in 500 different directions, you just sit down, you do some breathing, you do some meditating, and it all comes back to yourself, and you just feel afterwards so much more disconnected from all that busyness and more focused on the present moment. When we come back, I want to talk about a few tips on how to make meditation more than just observing your breath, and maybe also a little bit more fun and easier on top of it. We'll be right back. Hi, Dr. Friedemann here. Thank you for tuning into my YouTube channel. If you're interested in learning more about fear and anxiety, here you'll find guided meditations, webinars, and interviews with some of the most renowned experts in the field of empowerment. Delve into the over 230 videos and more to come every week.